I was hoping you would actually come on here and do right by me, but you choose not to. You want to further embarrass me. I've had 3 years on this platform of embarrassment, and this is not because of the show, because we've been dealing with this since Chicago.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss the Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 15 Reunion Part 2. And before we rejoice and dance into the sunset about how we are finally done with Atlanta, let me first start off by saying that I better not ever see Ralph Pittman on my screen again, because I was sick to my stomach watching that man sit up on that stage and pretend like he was the victim, talking about, oh, I always loved my wife, I've always loved Drew, and I've only tried to be a good husband to her, and I want my kids to know that I've been nothing but a great father and a great husband. And it's like, what the entire F? That man is sick, but it's very clear that he never respected Drew, he never liked Drew, and he was only there to suck her dry. And say what you want about Kenya Moore, whether you like her, don't like her, indifferent, she is the only one on that stage who truly had Drew's back, because I was so happy when she checked Ralph. When Drew left that stage crying, I said, now that's what a friend does. But y'all, let me not jump ahead. Let's just get right on into it, because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. Now, a quick disclaimer. This second part was a bit dry, so if I breeze through quite a few sections, don't be upset. We'll talk about it down in the comments, but I'm just not somebody who's going to waste valuable breath talking about nothing. But anyhow, we open up this last part of the reunion with Courtney and Drew still going at it. Courtney, you look like a straight up dummy. I have secondhand embarrassment for you. It is obvious that you want a spot on this show. And the more and more you spoke, I said, yeah, you guys are not cousins. That's your secret lover, because the way you're going this hard at Drew over a cousin that you just met 6 months ago, it's not adding up. The math ain't mathin'. And also, like I said in the last recap, past a certain age, I'm definitely giving you a major side eye if you're still talking about play cousins and play sisters at your big age. What really sealed the deal for me, when Courtney went to say that Drew is single-handedly the one to blame regarding the demise of her marriage, I just said, you know what? You really need help, because for you to say that with a straight face when there is evidence, i.e. 3 seasons of this show, where we have seen with our own eyes that Ralph does not like his wife. He's been out there cheating. He went to Tampa, didn't tell her. He still won't tell her who he was there with. He was asking for massages from an assistant last season. He picked you over his wife, pretty much. He pretty much defended you, calling her a bitch. But you want to say that despite all of Ralph's craziness, that Drew is responsible for the demise of her marriage and her family. Courtney is a very hateful woman, because for you to even fix your mouth to say such a thing. So Drew goes on to say that Courtney needs to put down the vodka. And personally, I would have taken it a step further. I would have said, Courtney, it's clear that you want him. It's no need for all this animosity, sis. You can go and have him. He's all yours. Courtney's in love, or she's in heavy lust with Ralph, because like I just said a few minutes ago, nobody's going this hard for a play cousin that they just met a few months ago. They're not. So Courtney and Drew are still going at it. At this point, I'm like, Courtney, just shut up. We don't want to hear you. Sanya's jumping in, talking about kids are off limits. There were several times throughout this reunion where I felt like Sanya clearly just wanted to jump in for some camera time, because like I said, Sanya has been so forgettable. I kept forgetting that she was there. If she hadn't gotten her own segment during this last part, I wouldn't have remembered that she was a part of the cast. But I said, Sanya, thank you for that reminder. We all know that kids are off limits, but you're dealing with desperate women, i.e. Marlo, Sheree, and Courtney. And especially somebody like Courtney, she's going to say whatever she wants to say because she wants to be on this show. And at no point did Courtney apologize for what she said about Drew's son and the whole adoption process. She stood 10 toes down in it. She was like, you know what? I said it. I knew the cameras are rolling. I don't care. Now, when it comes to this whole Drew and Ty situation, personally, I don't care. I feel like Ralph has embarrassed the hell out of Drew the entire time they've been married. So if she is messing around with Ty, I don't feel any way about it. And also, I think that it's pointless for them to still keep talking about Ty. Drew obviously does not want to talk about it for many reasons. So I think that we are just beating a dead horse to still be asking her about what's going on between you and Ty. Now, Drew did admit to going to one of Ty's games in Texas, but Drew, I'm gonna need you to get the rest of your story straight. And also, you were kind of stuttering like Sheree does when she's lying, because when you said, oh, but I mean, look, you know, don't focus on me. Ralph has been doing all this stuff all these years. I don't know what he's been doing, so talk to him, and I don't want to talk about it. If I were you, I would have kept the answer short and sweet. Yes, I went to go visit her. I went to a basketball game. That's it. Courtney throwing it out there that Drew's a compulsive liar. I just said, okay, Courtney. At the end of the day, you're a weirdo on the wrong team. The fact that you're really siding with Ralph Pittman, that says a lot about you and your character. I was mad at Andy for even entertaining Courtney when he was asking Courtney, when did Ralph tell her that he planned on divorcing Drew? And Courtney's talking about, he told me this after he got the evidence about the affair that she had going on. So Andy's like, okay, so when was this? And here she goes, making stuff up, pulling stuff out of her ass. And she's like, it was definitely after Portugal. And I just said, girl, it's just so clear that this man has coached you on what to say, just like Drew pointed out, because I don't believe a word of this. So now all of a sudden you have the inside scoop and all the knowledge about what went down in their marriage and when he wanted to divorce. Ralph probably called you up a day before the reunion and said, hey girl, say this when you get on that stage tomorrow. And now you're going along with it like an idiot. But don't sit up here and act like you have all the tea about what happened and Ralph was on the phone telling me this and telling me that. I was just over it. Did anybody else scream when Courtney said that Ralph was so devastated when he found out about Drew's affair? Even Andy looked at her like, girl, please. They all did. They were like, okay, Ralph was devastated. He was disgusted. All the dirt he's been doing behind Drew's back and in front of her face, but he's devastated and disgusted by what Drew's allegedly doing or not doing. This conversation got worse and worse, in my opinion. Andy starts asking all the other women, what do they know about the Drew and Ty rumors? He starts off by asking Kandi first. Kandi says that Drew was joking while filming the movie, that she had a girl crush on Ty, and so Kandi's makeup artist ended up inviting Ty to come on the set, and that's how they met. So now Andy turns to Sheree and Marlo, and he's asking them what they know. Now, Marlo, in all the confessionals this season, you've thrown a lot of shade about Drew and her marriage and her sexuality. But now when Andy asks you outright, so what do you know about Drew and this alleged affair that she had with Ty? Now it's mum's the word. Talk about, oh, well, they call me mumble, so I'm going to sit up here to say nothing. I plead the fifth. So now Sheree says, well, I don't want to get involved in it. It's just so messy. But since we're talking about it, somebody came to my house a few days ago and dropped off some receipts at my front door. So they're all like, well, who was it? Was it Ralph? Was it Courtney? Sheree's talking about, well, I don't know who did it. She won't say who it was. And I just said, Sheree, here's where we get annoyed, because you act like we're dumb. You know good and well that your house has a whole bunch of cameras and security. You can play the tapes back if you want to, and you can easily find out who dropped those receipts off at your door. And I loved when Kenya called you out and said, now Sheree, stop it. You have that huge gate. Don't act like any old body can just roll up to your home. Just because you're not that bright, sis, don't try to play us all like we're fools. Like, I can't stand that. And the way Courtney was smiling with glee, it was clear that it was Courtney who rolled up and dropped these receipts over at Sheree's door. I said, girl, you can't even hide it. At least have a better poker face. So Andy says that he'd be pissed if his private text messages got leaked. And then he does admit that the text between Drew and Ty do seem a bit incriminating. Now, when Kenya and Kandi both looked at the text, you saw that Kenya was like, well, I don't see anything incriminating here. Kandi was sort of on the fence because she was like, now, when me and you text, are either one of us ever sending these long paragraphs to each other? So you could tell that Kandi kind of feels like there was something there. Let's just stop right here because whether or not those texts were incriminating or not, it does not negate the fact that Ralph has been an awful husband for 9 years straight. And he's been cheating and gaslighting the hell out of her the entire time. So if Drew wants to get her lick back, then so be it. I'm not mad at her. Was it just me, or was Drew reacting a bit strangely when they were going over the text messages between her and Ty? She did seem nervous, very anxious. She kept saying, well, my DMs are popping and Ralph has single-handedly beat the IRS. And I was like, wait, what? Did I hear that right? Why is she bringing that up? That came out of left field. So Courtney and Monyetta are dismissed, and now we see the ladies break off for lunch. So, of course, Marlo and Sheree are in Marlo's dressing room, and they're having a kiki. You see Marlo talk about, oh my gosh, bitch, like you did that. You were on fire this first part. So Sheree's like, oh my gosh, I know I didn't want to, but I had to do it because Kandi has been talking about me and my business every single week. Y'all know how I feel about Sheree Whitfield. I think that Sheree has such low character, low intelligence. She's cheap, tacky, and on top of that, she takes absolutely no ownership for her actions. The absolute gall for you to say that Kandi has been talking about you every week when all Kandi is doing is reacting to what you said about her first. You don't get to talk about somebody like a dog every single week, and now you're upset when they finally clap back and they clear you. That's not how this works. Sheree has always operated with this whole stance of she can do whatever she wants, but you can't say anything. The rules apply to everybody else except for her. She has always been like that since season 1. Kandi has had every right to get you together. Whether on her TikTok, her YouTube channel, it has been well deserved. And you feel like some respect is owed to you. On what planet? And I hate the way Sheree gets away with this year after year after year, and nobody checks her on it. And Sheree, stop trying to blame Kandi. Everybody and their mom has been talking about your failed brand for 14 years. So stop. Stop acting like Kandi is the culprit and she's the cause for why your brand isn't doing well. She by Sheree is a flop because you have no work ethic. That's the real reason why. And how ironic for you guys to talk about the markup of Kandi's clothes, talking about, oh, this set is on Shein or AliExpress for $7 and Kandi selling it at her store for $75. And I said, while that might be so, Sheree's markup is crazy as well. It's even more than Kandi's. She's selling $7 sets and marking them up for $200. She was trying to sell a wrinkled Who Gonna Check Me Boo shirt for $125. So if anybody wants to talk about markups, let's start with She by Sheree. So again, I wouldn't have too much to say. I think that it's just weird to me that you can sit up here and shade somebody who's actually successful when the entire time you've been on this show, you have fumbled multiple bags, you've yet to secure a bag, and you can't get an endorsement to save your life. But you want to go after the most successful people on this show. And Marlo and Sheree, you guys might feel like Sheree really ate Kandi up in that first part, but the bottom line is, if this show gets canceled tomorrow, which it very well could because nothing's guaranteed, but if that were to happen, you guys would be struggling and Kandi would be doing just fine. This show isn't her lifeline. She's still gonna eat. I rolled my eyes so hard when we saw Ralph getting his hair cut in his dressing room and Courtney came in, I said, look at her, slithering all in there like a side chick. That is not his cousin, and they can both stop with that lie. They are messing around. I mean, their whole energy, you can feel that chemistry between them. I say, yeah, that's nobody's cousin. I don't know if it's just me, but Drew's sister Allison has become one of my favorite people. She low-key made the remainder of this season bearable. I like her a lot. I love that big sister energy. She does not play about her sister Drew. And when she rolled right into that dressing room and she addressed Courtney, she said, you are not his cousin. Y'all are not cousins. And then Courtney talking about, oh, here this bitch comes. And Allison said, excuse me? I thought you didn't use that word, bitch. And Allison got right in her face too. Like, girl, who are you talking to? I said, Courtney, if I were you, I would just sit down. I don't think that Allison is somebody that you want to mess with. I really don't. And Ralph's barber pissed me off when she walked over there to close the door in Allison's face. She was like, okay, goodbye, get out of here. That was not her place to close that door in Allison's face like that. And now we see Courtney telling Ralph that Drew's a compulsive liar and how it's really sad, it's pathetic, and she understands that Ralph still loves Drew, but he can't keep putting up with the disrespect that she's showing him. I just said, yeah, it's apparent that there's something going on and that they're in cahoots together, because you cannot tell me with a straight face that you believe for 1 minute that Drew is disrespecting and violating Ralph. Not in this lifetime or the next. Say what you want about Drew, because Drew has her issues. But one thing is certain, that in that marriage, Drew is not the issue, and she was not the one gaslighting him. It was the other way around. But Courtney, you are a desperate, pathetic, and vile woman, and for that to even come out of your mouth is just disgusting. Now, when they came back from lunch, and Andy started talking about their sex lives, and he read the viewer question about why were they teasing Kenya about how she ate the groceries back in the day. And then you have Sheree trying to embarrass her good buddy old pal, Kenya Moore, talking about, oh, Kenya was eating the groceries 20 years ago. And I just said it never fails. Every single chance that Sheree has, she will always choose to embarrass Kenya. And Kenya, I feel like, are you purposely turning a blind eye? Or do you just not see it that Sheree is not your friend? Because no friend would try to embarrass you like that. And before the 3 Sheree stands hop on here talk about, oh no, Sheree was just joking when she said that. No, she wasn't. You know when a friend is joking, and you know when it's some slight shade and they're saying something to embarrass you. The way Sheree said that, it was like, let's remind everybody, in case the viewers forgot, that Kenya was up here doing all that back in the day before it became mainstream. Sheree, whatever sex acts Kenya wants to do, that's her business. You need to focus on why you keep attracting losers. Let's focus on that. I thought it was really strange when Sheree just flat out asked Kandi what's the freakiest thing she's ever done. And I just said, now, you tried to blast me about my restaurants, saying that my floors are dirty, and you cursed me out, pretty much saying that I wasn't on your level, but now you want to know my business about what I've done in the bedroom? If I were Kandi, I would have paid Sheree dust. I would not have answered that. Don't speak to me. And I was a bit annoyed with Kandi when she actually answered the question. And I guess Marlo felt like she wasn't getting enough airtime because she randomly blurted out that her best sex was from a Gemini. And I just said, okay. Now we get to Sanya's portion. So Andy kicks it off by thanking Sanya for sharing her story about her miscarriage. So Sanya's emotional and she's retelling the story of what happened, how she was on a business trip in New York when she had the miscarriage. So now we learn that Sanya lost a tremendous amount of blood, had to get a blood transfusion, and she fainted. And again, she notes that it was one of the most scariest things because she was in New York by herself, all alone. Ross was away. Her parents weren't with her. So to go through that by yourself, I can only imagine how she felt. But it was touching to hear that a month later, she got pregnant again. And she says that this time, she kept it under wraps, didn't tell a soul. She wanted to wait till she got to that 3-month mark. And I said, now y'all know how I feel about moving in silence. That is the only way to go, in my personal opinion. So hearing that this time around, she kept her mouth shut, I said, thank God. But all in all, I really do wish Sanya the best. I wish her a very healthy and happy remainder of her pregnancy. And I really hope that she has a smooth delivery. So here's where things get a little bit tense. Andy wants to know if Sanya felt like she received support from all the ladies. And Sanya reveals that everybody supported her except for Kenya. And she's upset with Kenya. She's like, Kenya, I have to be honest. Out of everybody in this group, you did not reach out to me. That really hurt my feelings. To know that I'm struggling like this and you don't reach out, like that really sucks. So she's like, Sheree and Marlo sent over flowers and Uber Eats. Kandi FaceTimed me. Even Drew called me. And you, nothing. And Kenya denies it. She's like, well, Sanya, that's not true. I did reach out to you, but when I called you, I was sent to voicemail. So Sanya's not buying it. She's like, well, I don't remember you reaching out to me. I don't remember you calling me. And Kenya keeps insisting. So Sanya says, look, Kenya, I'm upset. Everybody else showed up for me except you. So Kenya acknowledges how Sanya feels, but she also goes on to say that she did reach out to Sanya. And at the end of the day, let's focus on the positivity, the fact that Sanya's pregnant again, and let's not focus on the negativity. Now, in this situation, I have to be fair. I feel like Sanya's feelings are valid. Granted, her and Kenya aren't the best of friends. I can understand her being upset, feeling like Kenya did the bare minimum or gave no effort in reaching out during such a difficult time. I get it. But I will say that when you're in a very interesting dynamic with somebody that you're not friends with, but you're not friends with, sort of like a frenemy situation, you can only expect but so much. Just in my opinion, I feel like Sanya might have had too high of hopes for Kenya to reach out to her. And when it didn't happen how she wanted it to, now she's angry. And I feel like another reason why Sanya felt hurt by Kenya, because I think that Sanya really wants to be Kenya's friend. That's where I think this really stems from. I think that Sanya is hurt that a lot of times Kenya pays her dust. And she just really wants Kenya's affection and care and validation for a friendship. And Kenya's not giving her that. And because of that, it's upsetting. Andy asking Sanya about her family and their living arrangements. We learned from Sanya that her family has moved out her house. I said, thank you, Jesus. It's about time. Because I don't know how she did it with all those grown folks in her house like that. And none of them were paying a bill.
Ladies, may we get a word?
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
Now, when Andy jumped over to Kenya and he started asking her about her plans to have another child, and she said that she wants to adopt. Personally, Kenya, if I were you, I would not say anything. I would have told Andy, you'll have to wait and see. You guys know where I stand. I am the biggest believer in moving in silence. I do not believe in discussing premature plans with anybody. Write it down in your journal. Talk to God, talk to your pet. But I just feel like things never work out, or it takes a lot longer than it should when you start opening your mouth. Also, the fact that Kenya is still going through this awful divorce. I would not give Mark any ammunition to try to block me. Again, my mouth would be shut. Not a word would have been said. So now we see Andy addressing Sanya's charity event and the fact that Kenya called out Marlo on Twitter for not raising her paddle to donate to her best friend's charity. So Marlo's like, come on, Andy. You know good and damn well I was going to donate. I sent Sanya the money by the end of that night. And we find out that the real reason why Marlo didn't raise her paddle that day because of Kenya. She was like, I'm not trying to support anything that Kenya's doing. I said, first of all, Marlo, you sound so dumb. It's not like the money was going to Kenya. It was going to charity regardless. So now Sanya starts ranting about how she feels like Kenya isn't genuine with her, how she feels like Kenya only does things to look good in the moment on camera, but off camera, it's a different story. Now, Sanya, you're entitled to feel how you feel, but Kenya raised a lot of money. Your goal was originally $50,000, and she ended up raising $78,000 for you. So you got $28,000 over. So regardless of whether Kenya did that to look good for the camera, you guys helped a lot of women, and you were able to give those women even more because of Kenya's fundraising skills. So I said again, Sanya, I know you might be annoyed with Kenya, but not too much, because in that instance, she really came through. And I feel like Sanya proved my point, because when she went on to say that Kenya's not genuine, it's clear that Sanya really wants a friendship with Kenya, and she really is bothered by the fact that Kenya pays her dust. Here's where I said Sheree has got to be one of the most delusional housewives we have ever seen. When Andy read Sheree's question for Kandi, I said, girl, you are really pressed, aren't you? So Andy reads Sheree's question for Kandi, and I think Sheree said, Kandi, you obviously think that you're above the group, and you obviously don't want to showcase your real life. You obviously want to showcase the good and not the bad. So why are you still on the show? And don't you think that it's time to step down and take a break? Because you don't want to film, you're not around the other girls. So again, maybe it's time for a break. So Kandi's like, well, first of all, let's get one thing straight. I've always shown the good, bad, and the ugly of my life. You guys have seen it all throughout the years. Andy co-signs on it. He's like, yeah, we've seen the rocky relationship between you and your mom for over a decade. While Kandi has never been a favorite housewife of mine, she has always been transparent, and she's always shown her real life. Now, in these recent seasons, I feel like Kandi's storyline has come full circle, and she could definitely exit stage left, because I don't feel like she has anything else to give us. But there was a time where she had one of the best storylines. And if you really think about it, Sheree and Marlo would love to have Kandi off the show, because Kandi's salary is allegedly close to $3 million a season. So if they fire her, they can divvy up Kandi's check and give everybody on the cast a raise. And Lord knows Sheree and Marlo desperately need that money, because this Bravo check is the only check that's coming in. And I also loved how Kandi debunked what Sheree said. She said, now girl, we have my spinoff show, Kandi and the Gang. We showed all the mess that was happening at my restaurants. So how can you even say that I don't showcase the bad that's going on in my life? And also, Sheree, the jealousy is really coming out for you to say you think that you're above everybody. Does she? That's a projection. You obviously feel like Kandi's above you. Because if you claim to have all this confidence, if you're a bad bitch, somebody else having confidence shouldn't bother you. But you seem awfully bothered by what you think Kandi thinks about herself and this group. And the way Kandi clocked you, Sheree, when she said, and Sheree, you would know the most about taking breaks. And Sheree was so gagged when Kandi said that. And then when she said, well, I'm always asked back every time I'm off the show is lackluster without me. And I'm an OG, so give me some respect. I was like, once again, you're delusional. And Sheree, let's not play this game. The times you were not on the show, it's because you were fired. Please don't try to lie to us and act like you're the one who left the show and Bravo was begging you back. We all know that with your financial issues over the years, you're not turning down a Bravo check. Everybody's clocked your tea for years. They were saying that when you were off the show, people would see you out and about at Piedmont Park and you be charging the girls $5 to take a picture with them. So you've been down bad quite some time. So don't act like you left the show because you wanted to and Bravo was begging you back. We all know that you were on that phone with Andy and everybody else at NBC Universal to get your job back. You can lie to yourself, but you won't lie to us. And if you ask me, the show's gotten worse since Sheree's back on. If I'm being honest, I think we'd actually have a better season without Sheree. We're going to skip over this entire segment with Marlo spouting out the same nonsense about her late nephew and Kandi's restaurant. Marlo made no sense. The fact that she wants to bring this up 2 years later when she had ample time to address it is ridiculous. And for Marlo to still sit up there talk about, oh, well, I still stand by what I said. I feel like Kandi should have done more. Kandi did not do anything wrong. And Marlo, you looked absolutely pathetic to even bring this up and try to make that your storyline. And you guys know how I feel about Marlo, so we're gonna just skip right past it because I was too done. But I will say this one thing, Kandi, I was proud of you for finally clocking Marlo on her jealousy. When you said, Marlo, you're just jealous of the fact that things work out for me. That's what this is. You're jealous, just admit it. And then here goes Marlo. I'm jealous of you? Actually, I live the soft life. Kandi works too damn much for me, supporting all those people. It couldn't be me. How am I jealous of her? Marlo, you're an awful actress. We're not buying what you're trying to sell. And the jealousy that you have of Kandi seeps out of your pores. You just can't hide it. So for you to act like, oh, I'm jealous. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. We see through it. And Sheree's also envious of Kandi as well. You guys both are. Now we finally get to the moment we have all been waiting for. Ralph has joined the ladies on the stage, and Drew's body was so tense. And when Andy asked her, Drew, how are you feeling seeing your soon-to-be ex-husband here right now across from you? And she was like, we're here, aren't we? And her body language was so telling. It was almost like if she could have left that stage right then and there, she would have. She was not trying to look at that man. So that alone tells me that them still sharing the same house together, I'm sure it's a nightmare. I felt bad for Drew. I said she is going through it. And even Kenya was like, Drew, just get through it. Just answer the questions. Like, you can do it. So Drew pulls out a peach. Now, I want to know, where is Drew getting all these props from? They were all like, girl, where'd you get this peach from? So she's like, give that to Ralph, Andy, because he clearly wants a peach. He wants a moment. And he does. Ralph likes the camera time. He loves this fame. Even though his name is being slandered, even though he's being outed as a psycho and a narcissist and a gaslighter, he loves the attention. Because despite it all, good press, bad press, it's still press. So Andy wants to know where they stand in their divorce, and Ralph says that they're in mediation. We no longer have to wonder if Ralph is crazy. When Andy wanted to know if they have rules in place since they're still under the same roof, and Ralph said, well, all I want to say is that I love my wife and I only want to represent and show my kids a positive father figure and be a positive representation because Drew has put a lot of lies out. I said, this man needs help. He needs to be checked into the nearest facility because the fact that he's trying to act like we haven't watched him these past 3 seasons show his entire ass and degrade his wife, for him to even say something like that, it truly shows that this man is not playing with a full deck and he's insane. Nobody is lying on you. And honestly, I don't know how Drew sat there for as long as she did, because I swear to you, I might have thrown a shoe at Ralph. When Andy asked Ralph outright if he's been unfaithful to Drew, and his answer was, well, if I did cheat, it would have gotten out already. And Andy said, that's not the question. Was there infidelity in your marriage? Was there ever a time that you stepped out? Yes or no? And Ralph is such a liar. Did we really expect him to tell the truth? When he sat up there and said, I've always been faithful, and Drew said, well, I've always been faithful our entire marriage. And when he tried to flip it on her and he said, well, what about Ty? Security would have had to escort either me or Ralph off the premises because it would have been at that point where I snapped. To have gone through all that hell with this man for all those years, and now he's going to sit up here and try to embarrass me and gaslight me on national television when everybody, including my castmates, my boss, and all the viewers at home see what's going on, and this man wants to sit up here and play this game and try to turn it on me like I've been the one who's been unfaithful. Again, it would have been either me or Ralph on that stage. But I can guarantee you I would not have sat through the rest of that. I wouldn't have. The pain in Drew's voice when she started yelling at him and she said, "You have always chosen other women instead of me our entire marriage. You have had me in precarious situations since day one. You have played in my face for 3 years on national television. You quit marriage counseling because Dr. Ken called you out, held your feet to the fire, and then you plotted with Mimi to piece together this story about me and Ty." So now Kandi and Marlo jump in and they say that it was Drew's assistant who was running around telling everybody about this affair between her and Ty. So Ralph even says that her assistant was the one who was running around with this whole story about the affair. So Drew's denying it. She's like, "No, Danny would never do that." And they're all like, "Yes, girl, Danny was running his mouth saying that you and Ty were messing around." Honestly, it was painful watching Drew and Ralph. I mean, the more receipts that Drew kept pulling out about how Ralph has dogged her out their entire marriage, I couldn't hear anymore. This is excruciating to listen to because the hell that this man has put her through for all this time. And to think that for their entire marriage, Drew has been trying to convince herself that it was a good marriage, that his behavior was okay. Imagine. She was bending over backwards to please this man, walking on eggshells. And what was it for? At one point in the conversation, my heart broke when Drew said to him, "I've given you my entire 30s. I was like, damn, Drew. But Drew, you're still young. You're like, what, 38, 39? Still young. You're a beautiful woman. Just leave this man. Leave him in the dust and don't look back." But my heart really broke then when Drew brought up how they've been dealing with this and all the infidelities since 2017 when they were in Chicago. And she was like, it never stopped. Drew showing Andy the text messages between Ralph and some woman who has a big butt. And the woman texted Ralph about how she wants Ralph's big D.
Is it his picture or her picture?
This is a woman with a big ass saying, "Are you gonna?"
What did it say, Andy?
It said, "Are you gonna bring me back that dick?"
And there's
The gaslighting wouldn't stop because he was talking about, well, that's a catfish. It's not real. I said, okay. Like I said, y'all, a drink would have been thrown in Ralph's face. A shoe would have been thrown at his head. I would have been escorted off the premises, or I would have demanded that Ralph get off the stage. Because there's no way that I would have been able to sit there and listen to this man still gaslight me in front of everybody. That would not have happened.
No.
Watching Drew sit there and cry and beg that man for an apology that she will never get, I just said, Drew, save your breath, dry your eyes. This man is a sociopath. He is not capable of showing or feeling emotion. He does not care. You being this distraught is only making him happier. It was taking everything in Ralph to not have that smirk on his face like he usually does. Now, when Andy brought up the whole Vegas trip and he's asking Ralph what happened in Vegas, and you have Ralph saying that he was actually in Vegas for a work conference, and Drew made up the whole entire story about him auditioning for the Magic Mike Chocolate City stripper show. It wasn't true at all. Drew called him out immediately. She's like, that's not true, because Kandi confirmed to me that she called the producer and they confirmed that Ralph tried out. So Ralph is still denying that he went out to Vegas to audition for the show. And Drew says, that's BS. You wanted to audition, come clean about it. And also, I had every right to be insecure because our marriage was falling apart. I have girls DMing me, girls approaching me on the street, telling me about what you're doing behind my back. Like I'm being embarrassed in real time because of your actions. So why wouldn't I think that you're in Vegas doing whatever? Now, Drew, I can bet you $5,000 that Ralph was out there with somebody else. In addition to auditioning for that Chocolate City stripper show. We don't have to use much brain power. We can just assume that he was indeed cheating on you while he was in Vegas. I'ma just wrap this up because I'm not gonna keep going over the same thing. Ralph is a liar. The man is insane. He's deranged. He has no soul. So I feel like I'm wasting precious breath even talking about this. That man is sick. He really gets off on crushing Drew. He wants her self-esteem to be non-existent. He hates Drew. And it was evident watching him on that stage that he wanted to see Drew suffer and cry and beg and grovel for his attention and his apologies that he'll never give to her. I really couldn't take it anymore. I said, let's wrap this up. Drew addressing Ralph about how he told her a few months ago that he's been getting blowjobs around the world, and all Ralph had to say was, I haven't even been around the world. It's like, somebody punch this man for me, please. Just punch him one good time. I think what really sealed the deal for me was when Andy brought up the nasty comments that Courtney made earlier on about Drew's oldest son. He pretty much brushed over that and gave reasons to why he never adopted Drew's oldest son. That right there showed me that there's something going on between Courtney and Ralph. Because you cannot tell me you raised this boy up like he was your own and you loved him like your own, like you've claimed for the past 3 seasons, and for somebody to talk badly about your son and you don't say anything? Absolutely disgusting. This man does not care about anybody. At this point, Drew is so worn out. She's going down the laundry list of all the things that Ralph has done to her. She's like, you have disrespected my parents. You had me isolated, banned my sister. You don't even have JoJo on the divorce petition. Like, you're not even claiming him. You have your fake cousin going up against me. You're coaching her to go up against your wife. Who does this? Ralph gaslighting her and telling her that she's acting right now and to calm down. That was so cruel. And to think that Drew has been dealing with that for 9 years. Now, the way I wanted to jump through that TV and get Marlo all the way together, when she turned to Ralph and said, look, me and you have talked, we've shared positive words, you have a beautiful family, and I hope that you guys get back together. I just said, Marlo, you're one of the biggest dummies I have ever seen. This man clearly hates her, and you're advocating for them to get back together? What is wrong with you? But then again, you're so twisted and so sick in the mind, you probably enjoy watching Ralph gaslight Drew and treat her poorly. But I just said you need some serious help to even say such a thing about, oh, I hope that you guys get back together and work it out because you're such a beautiful family. Drew needs to run so far away from this man. And once again, shout out to Kenya for checking Ralph when she said, Ralph, this reminds me so much of when Mark would gaslight me and he would side with the other women instead of siding with me. That's what you're doing to your wife. When she's coming to you telling you that Courtney's calling her a bitch and you're siding with Courtney, that's a problem. So you have Ralph trying to play in Kenya's face and he's talking about, well, that's my cousin. Kenya was so over it. She said, are you serious right now, Ralph? You don't even know that woman. You just met her. And Ralph was really trying to play in Kenya's face because he could not take the fact that Kenya was holding his feet to the fire. She would not back down. She would not let it go. She cleared him. She let him know that he's being an asshole and what he's doing is wrong. I know that some people might feel like Kenya was out of order to tell Ralph off, but in my opinion, she was 100% correct. And that's what true friendship and a true sisterhood looks like. I was happy that Kenya was the only one to defend Drew and say, you know what, Ralph, you're being an asshole. What you're doing is evil. And the fact that you're going to sit up here, gaslight her, and defend your actions to put a play cousin before your wife, you're out of your mind. And I was also happy when Andy checked Ralph. When Ralph went on to say that he's always been supportive and he's always uplifted Drew. And Andy said, well, how? Because when you make Ike and Tina jokes about your marriage, it's not landing as this supportive and doting husband. And I thought it was so sick when Andy gave them a quick 5-minute break and Ralph walked over to Drew and he was standing over her, asking her if she was okay. And then he says to her, I always cared. And Drew was just like, if you don't get the F away from me right now. She's like, you don't have to do this. Leave me alone. That man is absolutely deranged. He hates Drew with every fiber of his being. And he's upset now that she's officially just over him and his antics and she wants out. Because we all know, we've read studies about how narcissists always get angry when you finally leave. And he's at that point now where he's pissed that his victim has finally found her voice and she said, shout out to everybody, I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody, I have fun.
I gotta be good.
So he wants to play these stupid mind games with her to try to get her sucked in. But I'm glad that Drew is holding strong and she's like, you know what? Get away from me. Leave me alone. I'm done. So now it's time for Drew's performance for her new song. I think the song was called Throw Us Away. And personally, if I were Drew, I would not have performed. I just had to go through this whole crazy conversation with my soon-to-be ex-husband where he gaslit the hell out of me the entire time. I didn't receive an apology. No ownership, no accountability. Now I had to perform this song. I wouldn't have done it. I would have declined. There's no way that I would have had the mental capacity to get up there and sing. And it was so obvious that Drew was emotionally done. She could barely get through the song. It was almost like watching a train wreck. I said, now, Andy, you know you're wrong to have this woman perform after what she just went through. And when Drew finished singing, Andy was like, wow, that was really awkward, but you did a great job. And I just said, now, Andy, are you really surprised that it was awkward? Her performance definitely had me cringing. I was just like, ooh, like I can't watch it. So Ralph finally leaves. I said, thank you, Jesus. Won't he do it?
Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
And now we have Andy asking Sheree to end the night on a positive note. Sheree says, I love all you guys and I feel like we can all come together and work things out and I won't give up on you guys when it comes to healing. I was like, girl, what? You're the biggest instigator in this group. How are you saying that you're not giving up on them? Why is Andy trying to now give Sheree this title of a peacemaker and a healer? Sheree is anything but. Sheree has one of the nastiest spirits, but she's talking about healing and not giving up and how she loves everybody. You don't love people that you're constantly trying to shade and throwing under the bus. You don't love anybody but yourself. The only person that you somewhat like is Marlo because you guys are cut from the same cloth. You're the same person pretty much. That's why you guys enjoy each other so much. But you don't like anybody else on this cast. So to say, well, I love all you guys. I'm not giving up hope for all of you guys to be healed. I just said, Sheree, if you don't sit down and shut up. But they all toast with the green wine from Portugal. And that's where the season ends. And when I tell y'all, I have never felt so relieved. Well, that's a lie because Potomac has been wearing me out since season 5. And every time Potomac goes off, I feel like a burden has been lifted. But this season was a chore to get through. Bravo. I need for you guys to do a serious revamp because the way things are going with this current cast, the ratings will continue to plummet. It is apparent that none of these women like each other on Atlanta, and that's another reason why Atlanta is suffering. But y'all, that was my recap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.